Hello friends. In the previous video, in the previous lecture, we have seen in detail about the different types of gears, and we have been using some very peculiar words like velocity ratio and so on. So today what we'll do is we will conclude our discussion on gears by understanding the meaning of velocity ratio, how it needs to be found in case of a gear train, and then also we'll go through a few very simple problems. Okay, so let's see what is the definition of velocity ratio. The velocity ratio of a gear drive. Gear drive is where there are multiple gears. It starts with two, and you can have more number of gears also, and it can be a simple gear train, or it can be a compound gear train. That assembly itself is called as a gear drive. So the velocity ratio of a gear drive is defined as the ratio of the speed of the driver gear to the speed of the driven gear. That means when two gears mesh with each other, even though their speeds may vary based on the sizes and so on, the angular velocity remains the same. Now angular velocity is normally denoted by omega, and omega is normally written as pi dn by 60. So let's see what is the meaning of this and how to find out the velocity ratio. Um, let's assume all these things. We have a driver gear and a driven gear. Let small d1 be the pitch circle diameter of the driving gear, d2 be the pitch circle diameter of the driven gear, t1 be the number of teeth on the driving gear, t2 be the number of teeth on the driven gear, and n1 be the speed of the driving gear, and n2 be the speed of the driven gear. So both these, this and this, they have to become a driven gear. Okay, so there is a small error. Just remember that T2 is the number of teeth on the driven gear, and N2 is the speed of the speed in the RPM of the driven gear. Now the angular velocity, assuming that there is no slip, of course they are positive drives, we assume that there is no slip. We will write it as omega, that is the angular velocity is pi d1 n1 upon 60. It gets cancelled on both the sides. I have not mentioned it. So pi d1 n1 is equal to pi d2 n2. Similarly, pi also gets cancelled, and d1 small d1 n1 is equal to small d2 n2. Now velocity ratio is nothing but the speed of the driver gear to the speed of the driven gear. So it has to be n1 by n2. So from this we can conclude that n1 by n2 will be equal to d2 by d1. Similarly, we also have d1 by t1 is equal to d2 by t2. So d2 by t2 can be written as or d2 by d1 can be written as t2 by t1. Thus, the velocity ratio is, you can see here, it is n1 by n2, which is equal to d2 by d1, which is equal to t2 by t1. Now, there is also sometimes something called as a train value. Train value is the inverse of velocity ratio. That is, 1 upon velocity ratio is the train value. So, n2 by n1 will be the train value. So here you can see how do we find out. For example, let's say there is a simple gear train, as it has been shown here. Uh, there are four gears, A, B, C, and D. Okay, so A, B, C, D, and let NA be the speed, N suffix A be the speed of gear A, and TA be the number of teeth here. Similarly, NB, TB, then NC, TC, and ND, TD. So looking at the previous slide, we can write NA upon NB, that is this speed, that is the velocity ratio between only these two gears, that is A and B. So NA upon NB will be equal to TB upon TA. Similarly, if I consider these two gears now, that is B and C, then NB upon NC is equal to TC upon TB. Now I consider gear number C and D, so NC upon ND will be TD upon TC. Now if I say that A is the driver gear and D is the driven gear, then what is the velocity ratio? It will be NA upon ND. So we write NA upon ND, and using these previous equations, we can write it as Na upon Nd is Na upon Nb into Nb upon Nc into Nc upon Nd. So actually this Nb, this Nb, this Nc, this Nc, they get cancelled. So finally we will get the left hand side and the right hand side as the same. But once we write it in this manner, what we do is we'll write it as Na upon Nb. What is Na upon Nb here? It is Tb upon Ta. So I write it as Tb upon Ta. Similarly, what is Nb upon Nc? It is Tc upon Tb. So write it as Tc upon Tb. And what is Td upon Tc? Td upon Tc is Nb upon Nc, Nd can be written as Td upon Tc. So Tb will get cancelled. Similarly, Tc will get cancelled, and finally, what we are left with is Td upon Ta. So we have this as Td upon Ta. Hence, the velocity ratio for a simple gear train, this is a simple gear train, is Na upon Nd, which is equal to Td upon Ta. What is interesting to note in this entire analysis is the intermediate gears, that is gears B and C, do not have any effect on the velocity ratio at all in a simple gear train, because in the final equation, whatever final equation we have here, we do not have NB or NC or TB or TC and so on. So when we find out the velocity of a simple gear train, it is only the driver gear and the driven gear which are to be considered. The intermediate gears do not play any role in the velocity ratio. So the only reason why these intermediate gears are used is only for changing the direction, between the driver and the driven. That means in this case what has happened, the driver is rotating in the clockwise direction and the driven is rotating in the anti-clockwise direction. Suppose I remove B and I directly mesh A with C, then A will rotate in the clockwise direction, then C will rotate in the anti-clockwise direction, and D will again rotate in the clockwise direction. So these are called as idler gears. Okay, so the specific name for these is, they are called as idler gears, and idler gears are only used to control the direction of motion of the driver gear. Now on similar lines, suppose I have a compound gear train. Then in case of a compound gear train, as we have seen previously, here what is happening is A is meshing with B, B and C are mounted on the same shaft, but C is meshing with D, B is not meshing with the D. So for gears A and B, I will write Na upon Nb is equal to Tb upon Ta. Similarly for gears C and D, I will write Nc upon Nd is equal to Td upon Tc. Now what is the velocity ratio? Again, if we go by the definition, it is Na upon Nd. So I'll write Na upon Nd is equal to Na upon Nb into Nb upon Nd. Now that is because, see here, since B and C are mounted on the same shaft, their speed in RPM will remain the same. That means Nb is equal to Nc. So here I should have written it as Nc upon Nd in this case, but I have replaced that by Nc in this. So rewriting, we have Na upon Nd is Na upon Nb into Nc upon Nd. So finally the velocity ratio will be Tb upon, that is Na upon Nd itself is equal to Tb upon Ta into Td upon Tc. So now we can see that the intermediate gears B and C play a role in the velocity ratio. So in a simple gear train, they were called as idlers, but here we can't call them as idlers. They have a very specific role. So you can use these type of gear trains in order to increase the speed of this or reduce the speed of the driver driven gear and so on. So these are very specific arrangements. Now we'll see very simple numericals, that is only on a simple gear train. We are not going to discuss on compound gear trains. Let's say the first example, that is there are two gears having 80 teeth and 30 teeth respectively, and they mesh with each other. If the smaller gear is the one which is having 30 teeth. If it is rotating at 480 rpm, find the speed of the larger wheel. Now that means T1 is given, we need to find out N1, and T2 is given and N2 is also given. So we write the equation as T1 by T2 is equal to N2 by N1. So using this, we just have to find out N1. So N1 will be equal to N2 T2 by N1 T1. So we know everything on the right hand side. N2 is 480 rpm, T2 is 30, and T1 is 80. So finally we get the answer as 180 rpm. Now, and it is quite obvious also, since the number of teeth on the first gear are 80 and the second gear is 30, this gear has to rotate at a higher rpm than this. So it is rotating at 480 rpm while this will rotate at 180 rpm. So this is one problem. Then the next problem is a gear wheel of 20 teeth drives another gear wheel having 36 teeth. That is, the driver gear has 20 teeth and the driven gear has 36 teeth. The driven wheel rotates at 200 rpm. Find the speed of the driver wheel and the velocity ratio. Velocity ratio is also asked in this case. So the same thing, we have T1 as 20. We need to find out N1. T2 is given as 36 and N2 is given as 200. So using the similar equation, we have T1 by T2 is equal to N2 by N1, or N1 is equal to 360 rpm. Now, what is velocity ratio? Velocity ratio is nothing but N1 by N2, and we have just found out N1 as 360. So it is velocity ratio is 360 divided by 200, which is 1.8 is to 1. So the velocity ratio is 1.8 is to 1. Then we will see the last problem, where there is a gear train. Instead of having only 2 gears, we have slightly more gears here. A simple gear train is made up of 4 gears A, B, C and D, and they are having 20, 40, 60 and 70 teeth respectively. That is, A is having 20, B is having 40, C is having 60 and D is having 70 teeth respectively. A is the driver gear rotating at 500 rpm. That is, N1 is given to us. A meshes with B, B meshes with C and C meshes with D, and we are required to find the following. So we need to find out the speed of the intermediate gears, that is the speed of B and C, then speed of gear D, and direction of rotation of gear D if A is rotating in the anti-clockwise direction, and finally the velocity ratio and the train value. So first we will draw the arrangement. We need to draw it proportionately, because A has the minimum number of teeth and D has maximum number of teeth, and it is progressively increasing. So once we do this, we can find out NA by NB is equal to TB by TA. So using this, we find out what is NB. NB is equal to 250 rpm. That is, the speed of the intermediate gear B is 250 rpm. Now NB by NC, that is this by this, NB by NC will be equal to TC by TB. So we again substitute the values and get NC as 166.67 rpm. And now once we get NC, we will take these 2 gears. That is, NC by ND is equal to TD by TC. So substituting the values on the right hand side, we have found out NC as 166.67. We know TC and TD, that is 60 teeth and 70 teeth respectively. We find ND as 142.9 rpm. That is, the speed of the driven gear is approximately 143 rpm. So also, because the number of gears are even, here you can see that A is, if it is rotating in the anti-clockwise direction, B will rotate in the clockwise direction, C will rotate in the anti-clockwise direction, and D again will rotate in the C will rotate in the anti-clockwise direction and D will rotate in the clockwise direction. So D rotates in the clockwise direction if A rotates in anti-clockwise. Then velocity ratio is given by NA by ND. NA is given to us as 500 rpm, and ND we have just found out as 142.9. So the velocity ratio is 3.5 is to 1. Then the train value is the inverse of velocity ratio. So it is 1 upon 3.5, which is 0.29 is to 1. Okay, so these are the simple problems which you can practice on similar lines. You can solve more problems. Maybe 1 or 2 problems on compound gear trains also you can just go through if necessary. Now, finally, we need to understand what are the advantages and disadvantages of gear drives over belt drives. Okay, so we will be discussing with belt drives later on. But belt drives, for example, if you have been to a floor mill, there is a motor on one side and the grinding wheel is on the other side, and the motor is connected to the grinding wheel using a belt drive. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages of gear drives over belt drives? So let's see the first the advantages. Now gear drives are positive non-slip drives, and they give a constant velocity ratio, while in case of belt drives we can expect a small amount of slip. Then they are very convenient for small center distances with very high transmission efficiency. Of course, the example which I quoted, that is a floor mill, there you will never be able to use a gear drive because the distance is too large. From the motor to the grinding wheel, it is many a times as high as about 2 to 3 meters. So you cannot have the two coupled together using gear drives. There you will have to go in for a belt drive only. But for smaller center distances, you cannot use belt drives. You have to go in for gear drives. Then you can transmit motion and power between two shafts which are oriented in any direction, which is not possible in case of belt drives. So here non-parallel, non-coplanar, skewed, any kind of shafts, if I want to connect, I can use gears. Then they can be used for low, medium and high power transmission. Then velocity ratio as high as 60 is to 1 can be achieved. You can imagine, 60 is to 1, that is N1 by N2. If one gear, the driver gear, is rotating at 60 rpm, then the driven gear will rotate at only 1 rpm. So we can achieve this is possible in case of worm and worm wheel arrangement. Then gears can be made up of both metallic and non-metallic materials, and if necessary, gears can be cast integral with the shafts. That is, if I am casting a shaft, casting is a special process, manufacturing process. So along with the shaft itself, there is no need of keying the, mounting the gear on the shaft, keying to it, and fixing it rigidly and so on. The gear will be an integral part of the shaft itself if we cast it that way. And they have a wide range of applications, from simple toys. Many toys, we use keys in order to wind a spring. There is a gear inside. It can be a plastic gear. So simple toys to complex watch mechanisms. The mechanism inside a watch is actually extremely complex, and the size of the gears, or size in the sense the thickness of the gears, is also very, very small. The gears are very thin, and they are used in precision instruments, machine tools, automobiles, aero engines, and so on. There you cannot use belt drives at all, especially in precision instruments and watches and so on. However, gear drives also have some disadvantages. The disadvantages are they are not suitable for shafts having large center distances. They need continuous lubrication, especially if they are metallic. Okay, because there is a wear and tear. In order to reduce wear and tear, there has to be continuous lubrication. Then that at high speeds, they are susceptible to noise and vibration, because they are made up of metals. They may give out noise. Of course, even belt drives also sometimes give noise, but there are special type of belts which are noiseless in operation. Then precision gears, which are used especially, let's say, in watches and all, they are extremely expensive to manufacture. And gear trains having large number of gears will increase the overall weight of the machines. Then replacing worn out or damaged gears is time consuming. It takes so you have to remove the gear from the shaft, mount a new gear, and so on. So it is going to be time consuming. There's one point what you can remember, since we have seen all these different types of gears, and they are very complex in their features and construction. How are they produced, especially mass production? So normally, just for the purpose of demonstration, or once in a while, if you want to manufacture gears, then you can do it on a milling machine. But mass production is done on special machines which are called as gear hobbing machines. But even in gear hobbing machines, when the gears are being hobbed or manufactured, the parameters have to be perfect, so that the manufactured gears will mesh properly. Okay, so the width of the tooth and the depth of the tooth and so on, they have to be perfect. Only then meshing will happen properly. So this is something which you can remember. They are called as hobbing machines. Okay, so that completes our discussion on gears. Okay, so what remains is belt drives, and then discussion on the first module. Thank you very much.